Hello, and welcome to episode 94 of Uncovering the Corners of the World podcast. I'm your host, Karina Kasmala, using research and my personal experiences where I actually set foot in some of these places. I'll be describing some of the unknown attractions in both the US and around the world, as well as share some of the hidden landmarks of some well-known attractions. Through twists and turns and dead ends, we enter New Mexico, driving along Route 66. Approximately 535 miles of Route 66 runs through New Mexico, passing by mesas, railroad towns, tribal communities, and national monuments. New Mexico is the 47th state of the United States. It borders Colorado, Oklahoma, Texas, Arizona, and Mexico, or specifically the Mexican states Chihuahua and Sonora. In New Mexico, Route 66 originally followed the Santa Fe Trail north from Santa Rosa to Romeoville in Santa Fe, then south along Camino Real through Santo Domingo Pueblo and Albuquerque to Los Lunas and Isleta Pueblo. The road was shortened by 107 miles in 1937. While driving along Route 66, we have a tough time finding this musical attraction, because if you drive too fast, or you don't drive on the rumble strips, you might miss it. Located at the coordinates 35.071112 and negative 106.417113 on a road between Albuquerque and Tijeras in New Mexico is a musical highway. The musical highway is only a quarter-mile section of the highway, and it's located on New Mexico State Highway 333, which is the historic Route 66. You will then need to drive past the sign that says, "Pass with care," to find a small handwritten sign that marks the beginning of the musical highway. The road only plays parts of the song America the Beautiful, but the only way to hear it is if you drive on the rumble strips on the edge of the road at exactly 45 miles per hour. I recommend having the window open to hear it better. The musical highway is only on one side of the road for those driving eastbound. There's a specific number of rumble strips, and they're precisely spaced apart. So when a vehicle drives over them, that produces vibrations that pass through the air to create the song. Each musical note needed to be calculated by the number of strips needed to produce that note, and the space between each one of them. For instance, it takes 330 rumble strips placed at 2.4 inches apart and a car driven at exactly 45 miles per hour to sing the letter E. The rumble strips were added to the roads in 2014 and were part of a project between the National Geographic Channel and the New Mexico Department of Transportation. National Geographic featured this highway on an episode of the series Crowd Control, and supposedly the purpose was to encourage drivers to drive the speed limit. It also adds some excitement to a pretty but dull highway. Unfortunately, by 2020, new asphalt affected the rumble strips, but if you listen closely, you can still hear parts of the song, even if it's only less than a minute long. About 83 miles from Albuquerque, New Mexico, at One Peach Drive in Pecos, New Mexico, is a historical park that showcases the remains of the cultural history and geographic features of the Pecos Valley and New Mexico. Pecos National Historic Park lies near the Sangre de Cristo Mountains not far from Santa Fe. Between those mountains and the Glorieta Mesa is Glorieta Path, a natural path created by rivers and used by hunters, gatherers, traders, explorers, ranchers, immigrants, soldiers, conquerors, and tourists as they navigated through the mountains and mesas. Spanish mission ruins and the Native American ruins, such as mission churches, built 100 years apart, can be found in the park. The first church was completed in 1625. All that remains of the first church is the small border or wall of rocks that served as the church's foundation, whereas the other church still has a few walls left. Pecos National Historic Park is also the site of the Battle of Glorieta Pass, one of the battles of the Civil War. This battle was referred to by some as the Gettysburg of the West. In the Battle of Glorieta Pass, the Confederates wanted to take control of the West. They traveled from Texas along the Santa Fe Trail. The battle erupted on March 26, 1862, when the Union Army encountered the Confederates on the trail. The only reminder of the Battle of Glorieta is Pigeon's Ranch, also known as Rancho de Glorieta. The brownish-colored building is located in Glorieta, New Mexico. Pigeon's Ranch was owned by Alexander Pigeon, a Frenchman who went by the name Alejandro Valle. He bought the Spanish land grant in 1852 for 5,275 pesos, so about $257. It is said that he wanted to build the ranch as a house of entertainment in the 1850s. During the Battle of Glorieta Pass in 1862, Pigeon's Ranch was used as a hospital, prison, and battleground. On March 27th, both reinforcements for the Union and Confederates arrived, and the Union Army used the walls as cover. The Confederates pushed out the Union Army from the ranch, but later found out that the Union Army attacked the Johnson's Ranch, which was where the Confederates' army kept their supplies. Because of the lack of supplies, the Confederates returned to Texas. The Pigeon's Ranch was damaged during the battle. Alejandro Valle filed a claim in 1870 to the U.S. government and named all the damages in that claim that he endured, such as grain, molasses, whiskey, equipment, and family possessions. However, his claim was denied. In 1992, the National Park Service signed a lease with the Conservation Fund and became owners of the Pigeon's Ranch. Today, surrounded by trees, grass, and shrubs, you can see the ruins of the three-room ranch and a part of the original corral. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Even though I recommend finding the musical highway and listening to it in person, you can also read the article If You Drive the Right Speed, This Musical Highway Will Play You a Song by Jennifer Nalevitsky on the Smithsonian Magazine website. To learn more about Pecos National Park and Pigeon's Ranch, check out the National Park Service website on the Pecos National Park and the website historictrails.unm.edu to read about Pigeon's Ranch. Have a great week!